Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start.
There we go. Okay. So child separation anxiety. Being a mom myself, I have been through this before twice with both my kids. I can honestly say confidently that there is light at the end of the tunnel because it can be very emotional and give even the parents anxiety as well. Um, Usually it happens when we drop off our kids or even our nephews, nieces, anybody to the daycare or even with a sitter. Most of the time, it is completely normal. And since it's normal for the most part, there could be other factors that can contribute to child separation anxiety, like it can follow through adolescence, through adulthood, and it can interfere with school, their mental states, and even cause an issue or a fear of abandonment as they get older through adulthood. But most of the time, separation anxiety is just something that most children go through. Let's see. So it's a normal phase for babies and children. Separation anxiety is a sign of maturity in their developmental growth as they start to venture off on their own independently. And it gives them a chance to settle in with the daycare and to prevent or to help out with that, you would want to give them a chance to settle in with the daycare or a sitter. So when a baby or a child goes through this stage of child separation anxiety, you want to not just run off on them because I don't want to say I did that because it sounds bad, but through my experience, I had my son when I was 16, and there was a daycare at the high school that I went to, and I kind of would just run off when he would not look. And so it kind of like interfered with that. It messed up everything for me because I would be called off to go calm him down during class. Um, so when I pulled out from my textbook, from my psych textbook, they said that ideally parents and caregivers provide a secure base for infants, meaning that it'll just give them a confidence in their exploring in their when they're trying to explore in their environments. And from an article from Medical News Today, I got separation anxiety is a normal part of development in infants and very young children. It typically peaks between 10 months and 18 months of age, and by the age of 3 years old. So with my kids, my eldest was actually a little bit younger than that. He was about 8 or 9 when he went through that, and it lasted not too long. But with my second, it was typically around 10 to 18 months. I would say 10 months, but he lasted honestly a good 3 to 4 years because even after he would go to his preschool or daycare, I would still have to sit there with him, and he would cling on to me so badly that it started to look bad. They had told me that I would have to stay there all day with him or kind of reassure to him that it's only temporary. A parent or caregiver, well, that links to giving them a chance to settle in with the sitter. You'd kind of want to comfort them, and because if you don't, it would kind of leave them with a sense of abandonment, like they're gonna wonder where you are, like where did you go? They don't really have a concept of time. Well, they don't, but they do. So in the short time, they'll forget about it within a few minutes, even like 30 minutes. But in the long time, they're gonna think that you're just leaving them with some strangers, and it makes a big impact on them. Like I said, you don't want to rush out the door or sneak out the door, which is I used to do in my with my son's daycare. The dean actually pulled me aside one time, and she had told me not to do that because it'll give him that sense of abandonment. So she told me just to reassure to him that I would be back, and you'd kind of want to um, build comforting consistency and reassuring routine. So like short and sweet goodbyes, And you don't want to make it long and dramatic when you are leaving a child, because it'll feed into their stress, it'll feed into your stress as a parent or a caregiver. Abandonment can also be a major issue and lead to separation anxiety disorder. It can also follow through adolescence and sometimes even adulthood in worst cases. But abandonment can be described as a loss or fear of losing a loved one that have a significant impact in their lives. From the same article, I pulled abandonment issues arise from the loss of a loved one, such as a parent, a caregiver, romantic parent, partner when it comes to adults, and the loss often stems from a trauma, such as a death or divorce. Usually, I say babies don't really go through this because, like I said, they don't really remember as children do. But children would remember that, and it would make an impact on them. Um, Abandonment issues can also be concerned with symptoms. Can also be sorry can also be concerning when symptoms become severe, and you start to see symptoms in a child or an adult. So, for example, symptoms in a child would include low self-esteem, a constant worry. Suicide is even sometimes um, there, self harm, difficulty falling asleep, etc. For adults, it'll probably be distrust, giving too much into relationships or too little. They always need that reassurance of love from their partner, from whoever is around them. They tend to they push away to avoid rejection and a lack of emotional intimacy. But treatment is available, so you would want to seek mental health professionals like therapists, school counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists when it becomes that bad. Separation anxiety can also cause distrust or withdrawal from people. That same article, I pulled a quote saying individuals who experience abandonment in childhood may find themselves drawn to people who will treat them poorly or eventually leave them. So basically, they're incapable of sustaining a good, healthy relationship with somebody, and it can have a significant effect on people's lives and relationships. So with that, I do have a family member. They went through like a lot of child abuse. So everything was fine up to the age of 18, and even now at the age of 30, he cannot form a stable, secure, healthy relationship. Not even with his own mom. His dad, he's homeless. So it sadly is really something bad that people can go through that can affect through them all the way to adulthood and probably even after when they're really old. Emotional abandonment can be another cause for separation anxiety and lead to it being a disorder and not just a phase. Um, Emotional abandonment can also come from or is linked to mostly adopted and foster children. They may experience emotional abandonment more than children who live in normal households or yeah. It can be where a parent or caregiver physically presents but emotionally absent. It may also give a rise to abandonment issues later, kind of like what I explained with a family member of mine. They experience that emotional abandonment. A good example of that would be neglect, which is kind of what he went through. Trauma, abuse, poverty can be other factors. Um, Separation anxiety can last longer than most parents and caregivers would imagine. Older children and adolescents can be affected from separation anxiety that interfere with their daily lives in school. So, for example, children and adolescents can limit their activities in school, like they'll refuse to go to school trips, like field trips, play dates when it comes to children, and other events. Um, Separation anxiety can also lead to missed opportunities and lead them to missed opportunities so that they can learn new things in school or even engage in fun activities inside and outside of school. So teachers can often take more notice in children than adults because children are more likely to show the symptoms than an older child would or an adult would. They would isolate themselves and keep to themselves. I from another article from separation anxiety from separationcanada.com. I got maintaining and developmenting friendships can be difficult to accomplish. So they'll basically refuse everything, every invite they get, even with family invites like birthday parties and all that. Sleepovers, school events, study groups for college students. And many people will eventually experience depression, withdrawal, and apathy. Children will show more symptoms, like I said, opening and be more open about their separation anxiety. Like, for example, they'll throw tantrums, they'll say that they have tummy aches, they'll be clingy, crying. They might have complaints and they'll feel shameless and helpless. They'll feel embarrassed. They'll feel angry, and they'll feel it most when returning back to school. So like Sunday nights, going back to school Mondays, or even after a long vacation, like Christmas vacation, Thanksgiving vacation, um, which is time off of school. And children and adolescents may start to feel fear once being separated from a home or parents. So this increases dependence among the family members. They'll show a lack of independence and sleeping and socializing. So although separate anxiety is considered to be normal, it can last longer in children and adolescents. It'll take some more to outgrow than others, but there's plenty of coping skills that a parent can abide by or go by, and researchers and resources that parents and caregivers can follow to ease their loved ones out of it. As a parent myself, and for like all dedicated parents and caregivers, I feel like we can all reassure and comfort our kids or even whoever we're taking care of that we can just show them unconditional love. We can give them a sense of security and before it affects them negatively throughout their life. And yeah, that's my speech. Any questions, comments, feedback?
You think is the root cause of separation?